Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Today, we're having Patrice, the founder of WebFlix. Thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, thanks very much, Malika, and thanks very much for Platinum VC to host us here. And so very briefly, I'm Patrice Poujol. I'm the CEO of W3bflix that was invested by Animoca and Rolling Stone and WebFlix, which is on Ton and Telegram, and is the first streaming platform on Ton and Telegram. We're working hard to reshape the face of entertainment, and particularly recorded entertainment like movies, TV series, but also a bit of gaming.
Thanks for the introduction. It's very interesting. Do you really think that Netflix is already outdated, but we haven't just realized it yet?
Yeah, well, I wrote a book a few years ago that came out in 2018, 2019, and in it I was saying that was before COVID, right? Life before COVID. I was saying that Web 2, which is essentially Amazon, Facebook, Netflix, what we call platformization, was a necessary transition between Web 1, which was websites basically, into Web 3. So they're a necessary stone, on the pavement and the pathway towards Web 3. Are they going to be able to harness Web3 and move with it, or are they going to be dinosaurs that die? I don't know. I have respect for Netflix, by the way. There's a lot of competitors who say, hey, we're the Netflix killers. I don't think we are the Netflix killers. I think Netflix would have been potentially dead if not for COVID. They would have at least been maybe acquired by someone like Amazon, Alibaba, perhaps, if it was politically correct to do that, or any bigger group, Disney maybe, who knows. But COVID saved them, basically. And through COVID, they saved the film industry, actually, because production stopped. Basically, I have a company called Lumière that went through COVID, and all the clients we had, all the movies stopped, basically. For a year or two, there was no movies being made, nothing was happening. And if it was not for Netflix, I think the entire industry would have actually sunk to death. I mean, Netflix, obviously, Amazon, Hulu, iQIYI in China, and Alibaba, Tencent Video. So I'm not hitting hard on them. I think they're naturally part of a transition phase. Now, what's going to happen to them is they're going to have to adapt or die, like the dinosaurs, or are they going to be like the monkeys, basically, right? Adapting into something else. That I don't know, right? But they're going to have to make a move for sure.
Yeah, thanks. And what's about traditional cinema? Are they dinosaurs that are dying now?
That the thing is, if you look at the origins of cinema, cinema is basically technology, right? I mean, cinema has embraced technology from its creation, essentially theater, recorded theater, right? Without sound first, then with sound, then with color, then, 3D, whatever you want to, and then distribution as well, which was, physical formats, VHS or Betamax, and then eventually DVDs, Blu-ray, and now no physical format, really. And it's all really streamed. And if you think about it, at every point in time, it's the same as, the Netflix killers or the Ethereum killers. Everybody was like, oh, it's going to die, right? But it hasn't died, right? It has just evolved. And cinema today is very different, of course, from cinema in the 20s, 50s, 60s, 80s, 90s, and, after. But it's still there. There's still the Cannes Film Festival, which is on the 78th edition in a month's time, which we will cover as we did last year. And that's basically not dead yet. And in fact, it's merging a bit with TV, or what you would call TV, which is like series and cinema are now really closely tied together. So, and even gaming, like Ubisoft, for example, you even wonder what is the game and what is the movie. You got Assassin's Creed, for example. I'm not planning to advertise Ubisoft, they're friends of ours, but they merge really gaming and movies, right? So it is just evolving.
Yeah. Thank you. Very interesting. And you spent 20 years in both finance and film. when was the moment when you realized that cinema needs blockchain?
It was actually the hard way, because I was working on a film that I'm not going to name, but which was particularly difficult. It was a co-production between different cultures, and people didn't necessarily understand each other. I think some of the operators were badly intended, and some were really benevolent, right? And they really wanted us to work. The problem is, I realized without knowing it that we were in a system that was not trustless. That you had operators you could trust, operators you could not trust. The result was that a lot of the investors that I brought on board and partners lost their shirt on it, right? And at the end of it, I was going to exit the industry on that basis, because I just said, okay, I don't see where I'm going to fit into this. And this is actually where I met one of the early editors of Bitcoin magazine at the time. So you're thinking 2015, right? Right after Mongox, right after Silk Road being closed, Bitcoin had just gone down to, what was that? Between 300 or 200 and 500 bucks, right? And this is pretty much when I entered it. It was not for speculation around Bitcoin. It was not because I thought it was a great asset class, like Michael Saylor says it right left and center. It was just because I was attracted by the promises of decentralization. Mm-hmm. And how to make things more transparent, how to make people more accountable, potentially how can we raise money and account for royalties and IP in a more transparent fashion, right?
Yeah, and maybe you can explain exactly how it works, film and Web3 for those who don't have an idea about Web3.
In the same way as I said, cinema and even Netflix are evolving, and, the web is evolving from Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. We're going to see a Web 4 at some point, 5. I mean, people are already talking about Web 5 even without Web 4. But anyway, so it just keeps evolving. It's just life, right? And what I would say about this is we're still very early on in the game, right? There hasn't been a name put on it as much as we've seen GameFi, right? I mean, Animoca is the big one around this. For example, Sandbox, Decentraland, Axie Infinity, etc. There's a lot of companies that have actually sort of started to master this. Cinema hasn't found a narrative around it, which is what we're changing, by the way. I like the idea of, we had Film 3, but I like the idea of StreamFi, for example. And I think people didn't actually see the immediate benefits of it, but the immediate benefits are obvious. I mean, imagine from an audience perspective that you can all of a sudden have access not just to the content, but also maybe to the set, or maybe to certain perks, like being invited to some of the events, that you can eventually participate in the profits of the film, that you can be paid essentially for promoting the film, right? Like, which is not the case at the moment. Like if you buy 10 tickets for your family, you're not going to get anything. I mean, you're going to get your family really happy, but that's about it, right? So that is one thing. The other thing, from a producer's or creator's point of view, sort of typical producers, they don't know exactly, they don't have a very direct and transparent accounting system that tells them, okay, we actually earned that much from the film, and this is how much we should get. And on top of it, there's so many intermediaries. It's so intermediated that some people just literally placing a phone call or just signing a contract get so much in the middle that it just doesn't make any sense, and they're essentially being screwed, right? There's no other way to put it. I think that can be changed. There can be traceability in the entire process. They can be also protection for the IP. And I think this is really what we're planning to transform. And then eventually, I think one of the promises is to try and decentralize cloud services as well, as in streaming services. Because at the moment, if you're not going through Amazon, Google sort of safeguard their own technology for YouTube, or Tencent or Alibaba, or maybe Apple, essentially, if you're not going through one of the big 4 or 5, you're not going anywhere, really. But remember the time when we had BitTorrent, where you could download the film. And I'm not saying it was a good thing, right? I mean, I'd be killed by the internet if it was a good thing, but I did a lot of research on it when I was doing academic research. And the truth is, peer-to-peer sharing with blockchain is possible, actually. And it is possible to get your royalties back. So eventually, further down the line, not next year, but a few years down the road, this is pretty much, I think, what the future is going to be made of.
Yeah, thanks. Very informative and useful. And if I'm like just a normal person, I don't need like perks. I would love to go to an event, but I wouldn't invest much money. I just want to have like my series, etc., and my movies. What do I get?
Okay, let me give you a really short history on how fast or slow we've gone. The first film I think recorded, I might make a mistake because maybe somebody in their garage did something or somebody didn't publicize well enough. But to the best of my knowledge, the first film that was connected really to crypto was Braid. It was called Braid. It was Consensus and I think Breaker at the time. I mean, Singularity TV might have been involved, but I don't think Singularity TV were involved. But it was Consensus. Basically, it was Joe Lubin and Vitalik probably, starting this ultimately. And they raised finance for that film, I think around 1.6 million or something. For an indie film that would have had a hard time being, invested and financed. They had a premiere in Tribeca Film Festival, which was good, and Tribeca was then run by the former director of Sundance, Jeff Gilmore, who's really pro-innovation. So I'm pretty sure he had something to do with this. Anyway, that was a success, not necessarily critically, but, they managed to raise money with Ether. But we went one step further with Papicha, which was a film co-produced between Algeria, Belgium, and France, backed by Cal Plus as well. And we essentially brought in gap finance that was tokenized into the game with our partners FinFabric at the time. And that was through Lumière. That was not WebFlix, but was my previous company, Lumière. We did that successfully. Everybody who had invested through us made 3% on their investment, which is amazing on an indie film. The film was selected by Algeria for an Oscar. I mean, it was a success story. It's unfortunate that the timing was just before COVID, but it was. What we did then was one step beyond Braid, which was we tokenized the film and we digitized the contract. Essentially, we use Ricardian contracts so people could actually exchange the participation they had in the film with each other. In effect, you could call that a security token. At the time, it was a different landscape, but if we managed to do it back in 2019, I'm pretty sure with the proper legal framework today, it'd be a piece of cake to do it again, right? Now, we came in with a few more films after that using NFTs to give access to people as well to the set, to certain memorabilia or merchandise. That works pretty well too. So essentially, it has been an experimentation. Think about cinema evolving over time. We have evolved the model over time to the point where now WebFlix is basically the 5.0, I guess, or 5.1, whatever version of this, where you can stream the film. You know exactly how many people watched it. You know exactly how many people put money in it. And that money can be transferred straight into the wallet of the producer, the distributor, whoever has the rights to this film. And better than that, if anybody in the middle of all this promoted the film, watched the film, created content that promoted the film, then they would get rewarded for this, which is not the case at the moment. I mean, some guys are doing an amazing job at promoting films on YouTube. What do they get, really, outside of the YouTube sort of whatever, maybe revenues, right?
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Wish you best luck with that.
No, but that is already done. I mean, that tech is already implemented. So
nice. Nice. So I can be like an owner of a part of a movie, for example, right?
Okay, that the participation, not yet. But what you can do, for example, if you go on WebFlix today, if you go on the app, like we've got 1.2 million people, right, interacting, and 350,000 people really engaged with the app. What they do at the moment, they're watching trailers, right, movie trailers. What they do is they accrue points every time they watch the trailer, every time they share it with their friends or family. They're gaining points. Eventually, those points are going to be tokens, which means essentially money, right? So that is already done. The participation is Lumière, my other company, right? Because finance and streaming are two different things, right? And so the idea is not just work with Lumière, of course, but work with other production companies. We have other partners in the space where they fundraise the film, but we're in talks with a few partners where we could potentially fundraise with our own community as well. So help them participate in the fundraising of the movie. The only thing is, at the moment, because of the legal structure of things, and that might change, you don't know, but we cannot give people basically a share, as in, a security on the film, because essentially that would be a security token, right? What we can give, though, is access to the film is essentially a token, you can call it an NFT if you want, that gives access to the film, to certain types of merchandise, and that, if the film is successful, will increase in value, right? But we're waiting for, the legal system has been slow, right? I mean, it's been slow. It's been coping with a lot, right? I mean, we see that it's progressing, but the legality of it is taking more time than the tech. But we have to be waiting for the legislator to eventually just say, okay, now people who are not accredited investors can actually invest in the movies. When this is turned, which could be turned, by the way, fairly soon with what we see nowadays, right? I mean, a lot of the lawsuits have been essentially let go. And, then we think we're going to be able to propose participation in films, obviously. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks. You've got the first PhD on blockchain and film. How? And what's that? And could you please explain that?
Well, it's a lot of it is due to luck, right? And to timing. As I said, I was coming out of this production that was essentially hell. And that editor from Bitcoin Magazine, Nicolas Mendoza, came in, as well as my two supervisors, Maurice Benayoun and Robert Ellis Geiger, and they said, wow, you should really look into this and see how you could change how things are done in the film industry, because there are several issues, like I mentioned before, right? So I did that on the side of doing production still, and I came in with a real problem to blockchain, because blockchain sometimes is trying to find problems to solve to legitimate itself, right? But I came in with the totally opposite view of things, which is, okay, I've got a problem. Can you guys fix it? And I found that there were avenues to fix certain things. It's not easy. Think about the number of, except for payments, think about the number of applications that are actually widely used in blockchain today in real life, outside of Bitcoin, again, outside of payments. There's not many. After 10 years, what am I saying? Now it's 16 years, right? Where are we? So it has evolved, but to a point where concretely there's not so much happening. I was hoping it would be a little faster. I did the PhD because I said, okay, we're going to tackle this systematically and see what can we actually change, right? So I did that with City University of Hong Kong. I went to UCLA, which is probably one of the best film schools, with NYU and NUSC, and finished a PhD over there. And then I came back, found a publisher. They thought it would be a great thing to publish this as a book, and that's what started me, and that's what started Lumière, right? But it was a genuine research. Again, first Bitcoin I bought was, and I kicked myself in the butt every day for not buying more, obviously at the time. But I was not attracted by Bitcoin as a speculative asset. I was attracted by Bitcoin as a way to make a transaction between A to B and making it totally transparent. And believe me, you're gonna laugh about this, but when first Bitcoin I bought was 320. right? And when I did that, I bought one, right? And I bought one to see if it was going to work, right? And I was gobsmacked when I sent it to my friend from Bitcoin Magazine over, and it works. I was like, wow, I thought I was going to lose it all, right? I mean, that's where we were in 2015, right? I mean, 10 years ago.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and also I understand that people like from Web3 understand and believe in film 3. But how do you gain the trust of people from the cinema, from filmmakers who think that Web3 is just hype? And what do you say that can change their minds?
I think they're partly right, and that is what is frightening. Because, I mean, I've gone through, 3 cycles now? And every time is the same. It's just we see different faces. I went into what is called a niche. Cinema is supposedly a niche for 90% of the crypto people. Although, as I always say, entertainment is actually a $3 trillion niche, right? So it's a lot. The culture in general is a lot. And cinema itself is more than 400 billion. So it's not a small niche, actually. But I can see why people are afraid of Web3, and I'll be very critical about it, to be honest. Over the years, as much as I met a lot of cypherpunk at the beginning, I remember actually a meetup organized by Bitcoin Association in Hong Kong by Leo Weiss, who was the president, with Charles Hoskinson. We were 5 or 6 people in the room, and if you bring Charles Hoskinson today, you'd have thousands of people in the room, right? So it has evolved. It has brought a lot of people in. The problem is, along the way, I think people got in for various kind of reasons, and it doesn't make Web3's reputation better, right? We had the NFT craze on the previous cycle, which I think was a bit crazy. It was a bit mad, right? Now we have the memes to the point where you even have VCs. I mean, you guys are the VCs, but investing in memes. And I'm like, hold on a second, if you're a VC, you should be investing in fundamentals, right? Theoretically, not a hype. And I'm a little afraid, to be honest, at this point, because I see a lot of people say, oh, we're building, but in reality, nobody's building anything. And I think we're at a critical point where either 80% of all this is going to be wiped out and we're going to be left with 5 chains and people are going to start building on them, and then there'll be a storage chain, which is going to be Bitcoin, a chain, and that's it, right? Or we're going to see the ecosystem flourish again. I mean, obviously the dead wood is going to go, and then eventually, I mean, can you believe, I mean, I saw the results recently, like how many coins there are in circulation. We're talking about millions of coins now. I mean, I remember the ICO wave was like not even 1,000 probably. I mean, 1,000, 2,000 maybe. I mean, we're 1,000 times more. I mean, thousands of times more than that. It's crazy, right? It's unsustainable. I think nature will correct itself, right? I mean, it will correct all this. It's a pity because I think Web3 still has a lot to do, particularly combined. For me, Web3 is essentially blockchain combined with AI, combined with alternative ways of accessing information, which is glasses, watches, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a computer or a mobile phone, right? So a chip eventually, right? But it is the combination of these 3 things, and it's inevitable, but I can understand why people would be very worried about it. I am also worried about how it is getting developed at the moment.
Yeah, thanks. And you've also presented WebFlix on Cannes, at Cannes, Berlinale, MIPCOM. Did you hear skeptical questions about WebFlix, and what was like the worst one?
All the time, actually. All the time. And it was not just WebFlix, for the AFM in Los Angeles, for MIPCOM, for the Berlinale, for the, you said you were in Germany, for the EFM, the European Film Market, which is amazing. Just before COVID, I remember it was in February 2020. We came in with Lumière, and questions were very skeptical because it's always the same when you have a new technology coming in, particularly when it is disruptive. even if it really solves a lot of problems, people are going to go against it. I mean, remember, there's one case, super famous, which I'm sure you know about, is Dyson, right? I mean, he came in and he said, hey, why are we using all this paper for paper bags and changing, all this? It's ridiculous, right? Let's do something without paper bags, right? Now, what he didn't understand is basically the entire industry was making a fortune on the paper bags. So he was not welcome. So definitely he had a hard path, and people try to literally sabotage his enterprise and sabotage him, and great that he was able to do it, and now everybody's like, Dyson is top notch, right? And everybody has tried to imitate him now. But to get to that point, and it's great that he saw it in his lifetime, but a lot of inventors throughout the years, and the centuries, I've never had that chance, actually, and they managed to get to a certain point, but then the next ones brought it forward. And in a way, we get a lot of skepticism, like what I got back in 2017, when I started really pushing for this, right towards the end of the PhD, and it was in Los Angeles. Somebody came in to me and said, oh boy, I hope you got a good bulletproof jacket, because it's true, when you tackle transparency in the film industry, you're tackling a lot of things, right? And that is probably when I realized, okay, we're not going to have only friends here. And it's true. There's been a lot of resistance. There's a lot of people who said there were going to be a lot of resistance. I remember a talk from John McAfee, right, back in 2017 in Hong Kong at BitCan. In September 2017, and he said, this is going to go forward, but there's going to be a huge amount of resistance. And when you see what happened to him, right, you understand, yes, there's serious resistance in this. It's starting to give way, but we're on track. But it's every day is a challenge, actually.
Yeah, totally. And you mentioned some chains before. You mentioned Ethereum, but you're building on Ton and Telegram. Why? Why have you chosen?
That's a good question, actually. I mean, we did. Lumière is more connected to Ethereum and Polygon, by the way. Like pretty much all the tech we've developed is on that tech stack, right? On those chains. Now, why Ton? Well, there's two obvious answers, actually. The first one is Ton is the exclusive now chain for Telegram, right? That is it, right? And Telegram is 1 billion users, right? So ignoring it is ignoring 1 billion people, which is about more than a tenth of people's population, basically, right? So I think, you can't ignore this. And particularly because it is located in places that are not the usual place where you find Netflix, right? Because people cannot afford it. So we are filling a gap in those geographies. So that's where we came from. So that's the first thing. Now, Ton is obviously exclusive, but even before it was exclusive, the idea of Ton, and that's what I liked about their organization and the people that I met in Ton, is they're very conscious about the public's private data, right? Hence the encryption for Telegram, but also they're a gateway. They didn't come across as, we're the Ethereum killer. Respect for Solana, but, they came in and they like Binance, and we're the Ethereum killers. And we're like, yeah, but, you're kind of sowing the branch where you're sitting, essentially, right? Whereas Ton, they came in with a fresh idea, which is, we love Ethereum, right? We're a gateway. We're all going to work together and we're going to be interoperable. Great, I mean, I think that's a very nice way to look at things. And so all in all, we don't just have Ton's stamp on us, right? We're happy to interoperate. In fact, there are certain announcements we're going to make where we have partners that are not Ton, but are other chains that we're planning to interoperate with. So we're agnostic.
Okay, gotcha. Time really flies. Yeah. For a filmmaker, how to launch a project on WebFlix? What's the user flow?
Yeah, that's the thing. I saw the question. We're not in a situation at the moment where, and I'm going to answer two questions in one actually to go faster, but it's like, okay, we're really close to the community, right? So we ask them questions and we try to see what's happening. WebFlix didn't start as a streaming platform. It started pretty much as a crowdfunding platform where people would get perks and like an extension of Lumière, a different business model, but sort of a retail extension. Lumière is more B2B and WebFlix was going to be retail. And very quickly we realized that there was no product market fit on this. Essentially, our community didn't care so much about having access to a red carpet event here or this or that, or paying for it, or paying extra money for memorabilia. And Lumière was best suited for this, right? So we said, okay, we're going to focus then on, we're going to pivot and focus really on streaming, right? Because that's what people want. They want to have access to content. They want to be able to earn points. They want to be able to earn money if they promote a film. And so we got in tune with our community and we're building essentially a platform with them, right? So the flow as it is now is more, okay, you're a filmmaker, and you are essentially a professional, and you have a hard time getting your film seen, for example, you come to us and you're guaranteed you're going to get a number of views. I'll give you an example. We had recently a well-being week at some point, like early in the year, to really start the year properly. And we had 8 days where you had meditation, how to attract love, all of this. And so Master Shri Akarshana was part of this. And we said, okay, we're going to show these videos one a day over 8 days and see. Each video on average got 150,000 people watching it on a daily basis. So at the end of it, it was almost 1 million views after 8 days, which I think is tangible if you think about it. And he does have views in YouTube, but we guaranteed that. And so for a filmmaker coming in with a film out of nowhere, I think this is a great indie marketing tool, if you think about it. And it's a great way to do it because they probably wouldn't find such a great deal in Netflix or Amazon. So we're really planning to tap on this. And then it's easy. It's basically you send us the film, boom, we upload it. We try to see whether it's going to be part of our subscription model later on, or whether you want to do a pay-per-view or a group buy, essentially some discount. And that's basically where we act. Yeah.
Yeah, got you. Thanks. And jump to 2030. What do you hope the film industry will say about you and about WebFlix?
2030. I don't even know if I'll still be alive. No, in a way, along the same veins, before all, I came in as a filmmaker and I'm still a filmmaker at the end of the day. I diverged a little bit from my day-to-day job into tech, which was not necessarily my, I know tech, but I know lenses for cameras. I know camera work, but I don't know necessarily coding, except for when I was younger and I was, coding games, but Amstrad 6128, which was very, very old stuff in BASIC. So at the end of the day, I think in the same way, I would say Netflix has a transition phase and all these films, are a transition phase. I see WebFlix as, if in 2030 people say, they won't remember me, and in fact, I don't care, and I shouldn't be remembered, but if they remember that there was a company called WebFlix at some point that helped at least push the agenda and push the industry towards the good stuff, right? And solving these problems. And I can use as a filmmaker either WebFlix 3.0 or another company that has been inspired by WebFlix and make my movie and stream it. Then I think it's a success, right? To be part of that adventure, I would say.
Nice. I think that's pretty realistic.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I will ask you some questions. Please answer fast and don't think. So,
with my eyes closed, or with no hand?
Yeah. Okay, I'll start. Ethereum, Tons, or Solana, best for Film 3?
Interoperability is key. So I think if they're interoperable, each one of them are great for it.
Okay. More dangerous, centralization or over-tokenization?
Both are dangerous. I don't believe in extremes. We see the same with politics. Fascism or anarchy are not good for either anybody, really. So I think if you're 1984 for super centralization and total mess of 30 million coins, not good for people either. They get confused, right? So somewhere in the middle.
Totally agree.
I don't know where, but somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Most underrated use case of blockchain in media?
Royalties, IP protection, I think. In a way, traceability. If you're a filmmaker, you want to know how many people watch your audience, where from, more or less. And then you want to be connected to your audience. You want to be closer. You want to make sure that your money is going straight into your account immediately, not in 6 months, right? So that, I think, is one of the greatest use cases. Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. Web3 creator you'd love to collaborate with?
Wow, I got a lot of ideas here, but I have people Satoshi Nakamoto, right? No, but now beyond Satoshi Nakamoto, I would say I have a few people I really like. Arthur Hayes, for example, I think he's been spot on a lot of things. Co-founder of BitMEX, but CZ, I really like what he did as well. I mean, those guys are just absolute visionaries. Vitalik, of course. The top guys. Shitoshi as well, the guy from Shiba, who's a bit like Daft Punk, doesn't show his face. I think he's very smart people. But more, okay, these are top guys, like, OGs, from the day. And I'm obviously, leaving a few of them behind that are absolutely amazing. But I would say otherwise, people like Stephen Bartlett are really, really good. They're moving things forward, not just in Web3, but tech in general and entrepreneurship. Alex Hormozzi, Raoul Pal. All these people are amazing. And also all the ladies were doing this, right? I remember Sandy Peng, for example, who's absolutely amazing about Crawl. And there's zillions of people who are now coming in the space. One thing I do, and I say in a panel, I am never, ever again since 2021 on a panel that doesn't have at least one lady in it. I boycott. That has happened to me a few times. It was like, okay, there's no one here. You can't find anybody. You're kidding me? They should be. We're at a stage where it's not just 90% guys, 10% women, right? It should be, and I'm happy to talk to you today because I think it should be really, we should be stepping up on this, right?
Yeah, thanks. That's so true. When I go to conferences, it's mostly men, but also because it's a tech field. And the last one. What's one thing you believe about content that 90% of the industry disagrees with?
Well, AI is our friend, actually, because a lot of people, you've seen the strikes, right, in Hollywood, writers, actors, etc. It's a big disruption, more than blockchain, actually. AI is making an industry that was very safe and protected into something that's a bit chaotic now. But I don't think it's the end of the writers, and I don't think it's the end of the actors, actresses, and I think it's here to help us. I don't think people would just watch only AI-made films. There has to be human beings behind them or with them. It is going to reshuffle a lot of things, that's for sure. But we're looking into this, and 90% of the industry is like, oh, this is terrible. Well, one thing about AI is you can trace the origination of ideas also. So you know exactly where this is coming from. So it means protection also for ideas, for IP. And if you combine it with blockchain, I think it's a very powerful tool. So I know 90% of people are like afraid of it. If you're afraid of something, go and see what it's like. And at least you'll be confronting your fears. You can't just be living in fear under your duvet, and you have to go and see what is the opportunity like, right? And I think there is a great opportunity for the industry, actually.
Thank you so much, Patrice, for coming today. It was such a pleasure talking to you.
No, thank you, Malika. Really, really, really happy, and very happy if you need anything else, if you have any questions, if I can be of any help in the future. So
have fun on the Paris Blockchain Week, and really wish you luck with all the projects you have. And thank you. I think everything was very good. Our team will reach out to you when the video is posted. And if you want to change anything or edit or cut, I don't know, just let us know. But I think everything was very good.
No, it was very smooth. Thanks very much. And I really, really appreciate it. And let me know about the next steps. But, very thrilled to have been part of this.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. And
Great evening.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.